Hello and welcome back to Chapter 8. We are talking about Part B, where we will cover appositives and also learn about infinitives as nominals, a new structure that can function as a nominal. First, let's talk about appositives. Appositives are structures. They are almost always, but not always, noun phrases, and they're going to add additional information to a sentence by renaming another noun phrase or nominal. They're renaming it. Okay, so the sentences would be 100% grammatical if we didn't have the appositive. We don't need it. It's just renaming another noun phrase. This happens all the time. My brown English bulldog, Butch, snores on his doggy bed. So Butch is renaming the subject, my brown English bulldog. How about this one? The students read their favorite textbook, Understanding English Grammar. So here, Understanding English Grammar is renaming the direct object, their favorite textbook. I ate the fruit in the bowl, the crunchy red apple. So the fruit in the bowl, again the direct object, being renamed by the crunchy red apple. All you have to do is place the head word of the appositive in parens next to the noun it renames up there on the main line, or wherever the noun happens to be. And any additional info from the appositive goes beneath the main line as other noun modifiers do. I'll show you an example of this in just a moment. How can you check to see if it's really an appositive? If it can replace the NP it renames. So if I just said, instead of my brown English bulldog snores on his doggy bed, if I said Butch snores on his doggy bed, it would be completely the same concept. I ate the fruit in the bowl. If I replaced the fruit in the bowl with the crunchy red apple and just said I ate the crunchy red apple, again, the concept remains the same. That's how we know we are in appositive land. Here's what they look like diagrammed. I think this is kind of cool. Bulldog, the head word, not in parentheses, and the appositive, Butch, in parentheses, right next to the noun, it's renaming. Or the crunchy red apple was our second appositive. I wanted to give us lots of modifiers there. The appositive goes on the main line in parens, and any modifiers of the appositive simply go underneath it, the way that all noun modifiers go underneath their head words. Let's talk a little bit more about appositives and where they can come. This is a little bit sneaky. Appositives don't have to be the first thing listed, yeah? They can begin the sentence, they can end the sentence. Make sure you know what's referring to what. So here's an example. A former college football player, Dr. Kenley's father-in-law, sometimes intimidates her. So you want to ask yourself, hey, what's the subject of the sentence and what's the appositive? What's the appositive here? So while we could use a former college football player to replace Dr. Kenley's father-in-law, Dr. Kenley's father-in-law is the subject and former college football player is renaming the subject, here. Most of this is just common sense. One cool thing that I didn't tell you about gerunds when we were learning about them in Part A is that gerunds can be appositives. So this is why I said that appositives are usually noun phrases, but not always. Sometimes they're nominals. This is kind of neat. Here is a gerund as an appositive, which is afternoon pastime. Barking at the neighbors is monotonous. So the gerund, barking at the neighbors, is replacing the subject of the sentence, Butch's afternoon pastime, or renaming it, I suppose I should say, not replacing. And so we put it in parentheses next to the head word on the main line. I just think this looks pretty cool, a pedestal in parens. Like, you don't see that every day. Thank you, sentence diagramming. Thank you for blowing our minds. Let's talk now about another structure that can function as a nominal, the infinitive. We have seen infinitives play a variety of roles so far: adjectival roles, adverbial roles in chapters 6 and 7 if you need a refresher. But here, they're going to be functioning as nominals, and since they're nominals, they will be filling those nominal slots: subjects, direct objects, subject complements, and even appositives. Our study of gerunds is really going to help us here because nominals, when they're infinitives, are a whole lot like nominals when they're gerunds, right? If you can fill a pronoun like something or this or it into the slot, to see if it's filling up the whole thing and really acting as a nominal, then you will be in good shape. So our something or it trick works really, really well with nominals that are infinitives also. Pretty neat. Let's look at an infinitive filling the nominal slot. Okay. So here's my sentence. To be a champion show dog is very difficult. We can tell that we're dealing with an infinitive because we look after the to infinitive and beyond, right? We see that there is an infinitive after to, and we look beyond it. We see some additional stuff, a champion show dog, so we have a whole infinitive phrase here. This whole thing, to be a champion show dog, is the subject of our sentence, right? We put whenever an infinitive is playing a nominal role, we put it on a pedestal. Here the pedestal goes in the nominal subject slot, in the NP slot there. And the whole rest of the sentence falls into place behind it. Of course, this infinitive phrase, as we already know, has a pattern, in this case, pattern 3. It could be the subject, but the nominal could also, the infinitive as nominal could also be the direct object. Butch wants to be a champion show dog. Notice again that our it or something trick works really well. Butch wants something. Or in the previous example, something is very difficult. We could have a subject complement, infinitive. Cassidy's ambition is something, is to be a champion show dog. So ambition and to be a champion show dog are the same, right? Subject complement. And we could even have the appositive. Butch's dream, to be a champion show dog, takes patience. Well, we know that Butch has plenty of that because he is a very good boy when I put him in these videos. You'll notice that the appositive, which is renaming the dream here, the subject, goes in parentheses, the whole thing, pedestal and parens, next to the noun it's renaming. Let's talk about one more concept having to do with appositives briefly. This is the anticipatory it. So the it cleft is one of those things we do when we want to restructure a sentence syntactically. We learned about this in previous chapters. My sentence might say something like, it seems difficult to be a champion show dog. So it is the subject. To be a champion show dog is clearly renaming the it. It's in apposition to it. This infinitive phrase is not answering a verby question at all, right? It is just renaming it. Be advised, it's lurking at the end of the sentence, but it's still modifying the subject, right? Or renaming the subject. So make sure you put it where it goes in the diagram next to the subject itself. You'll recall that as with gerunds, sometimes the subject is implied and sometimes a new subject is given. Same for infinitives. If the infinitive has its own subject, we have to add it to the diagram on its own slanted line, and it has to be separated, as I've diagrammed it here, it has to be separated from the infinitive. We're trying to indicate, again, the division between subject and predicate. For Butch to be a champion show dog, this whole thing is the nominal. This whole thing, something, seems difficult, straightforward pattern 4. But the infinitive phrase goes on the pedestal here, and its own subject goes on a sort of slanted, jagged main line of its own. Make sure you separate the two of them. This is a pretty rare construction, but we do want to know how to diagram it. I have a hunch we'll be seeing something like this on our midterm. Cassidy says, to see you succeed at diagramming is her fondest wish. So keep up the good work. Practice, 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 and we will see you soon.